Hello everyone, this is Helios Raven. I tell you how I do it, even if you don't care. And we are now going to conclude our in-depth look at the forces of Tyranids with my final thoughts. All in all, Tyranids are an awesome army. I mean, if I actually played Tyranids in 40k, I would pick up a Tyranid Battlefleet Gothic Force. I have this thing, I usually only play Battlefleet Gothic with the armies I play in 40k, just in case I want to do some sort of campaign type of thing. It's weird, I know, but that's just me. But the Tyranids are a really awesome fleet. Their point costs are actually relatively decent for all their escorts and their hive ships, which make them really awesome for most campaigning stuff and making really nice fleets. One of their greatest strengths is the fact that they are all customizable to the point where you can have any type of army and it's unique to yourself and to only you. The hive ships are great. I would always like to have at least two in them if I can, because I think they're one of the biggest backbones in the fleet itself. And you can have, let's see, basically it's, I'd like to have at least two of them, and because they're great, they're very, well-rounded vessels. So if you're not sure if you want the battleships to be more of your jack of all trade ships, you can, and leave the more distinct tasks to your cruisers and your escorts. Their cruiser is also really good in the fact that, again, it's very versatile. It can be a close range. It could be close range. It could be an ordnance payload vessel. It can be a grappler ship to try and prevent other ships from operating, which is awesome. The fact that they have that capability. I love the massive claws just for the sheer fact that they could just latch on the ships and just wail on them until they get crippled or die, or the other ship gets destroyed, which is great. They make them a really annoying type of army. Their escorts are really good. Again, the Vanguard drone ships, you need a bunch of those because that's really going to allow you to get rid of some of the restrictions that the Tyranids have in terms of their targeting priority. The Krakens are really nice touch as well. Essentially, what you'd probably want to do is use your Vanguards to decide what their kind of role is going to be. If they're going to be close quarter vessels to fire weapon batteries, or be the feeder tentacle vessels, and then the escort drone ships is what you would decide what your what your Kraken would be and such, or your drone ships as well. You'd pick your regular stalker escorts, and either decide if you want them to be weapon range, weapon capability, either being lance weapons or weapon batteries or feeder tentacles, and then have that determine what kind of force you're going to have your Krakens do, because your Krakens can pick up the slack where the regular escorts don't, and the Vanguards are a nice complement. If so, they could be a nice complement where you just bring them into a squadron with a bunch of more weapon batteries or more feeder tentacles, or vice versa. Have one be the feeder tentacle vessels and the other be the weapon battery ones. Either way, it's really good. The fact that you can purchase additional ordnance in the beginning of the game is really neat. So you can start the game with a bunch of torpedoes and just have them launch out, and to just cause a massive headache to more fasty types of armies like the Necrons and the Eldar and the Dark Eldar and such. Their greatest weakness is the fact that they are very slow ships, for one thing, and a lot of their weapon capabilities drop once they become crippled. But again, at that point, they're designed for more, final death or glory type of vessels when they get crippled, and the fact that their shields and such aren't affected by crippled, which is really awesome. The fact that they have unending amounts of ordnance is awesome, so they can out-ordnance the Tau, which is really great. Essentially, these armies can be built to be used for anything. So if you're playing against Tau, you can build an army that works well against annoying the Tau forces, so you make them all close combat-y because that's where the Tau are the weakest. The fact that the ships basically force the other player to decide, should I just blow up the capital ship and try and take it out with me, or try and hope that I survive this, is really great. It's a really good chaotic army in the sense that it causes a lot of chaos on the field. its greatest weaknesses is it doesn't have much in terms of long range, and which makes it a very close range army. And some of their bigger stuff is very slow. Like for example, their fastest ship, I believe, is 25 centimeters. Well, is 25 centimeters. Where granted, that's pretty decently fast. But again, in terms of most armies, they can probably be outrun fairly easy. The instinctive behavior is also a crippling factor to them. You can have a vessel where you could be doing good and have your whole setup done, but one ship fails the instinctive behavior roll, and all of a sudden that ship does its own thing, causing a whole massive headache as to what you were planning to do. And that's another one of their greatest weaknesses, is the synapses control. You do have the benefit that the it has a fairly decent range for them, but you're also suffering under the fact that it makes your hive ships the major priority of the fleet, because they're the ones that control them. So they're going to be the ones that draw the most fire. But again, that also brings it to the issue where, since they're so slow, it forces the ships to come to you, and then you launch a bunch of escorts with grabber claws and such, massive claws and such, to take them down. So, all in all, very versatile army. Granted, their biggest advantage is in close quarters combat, their range combat. You can build them to be fairly decent just only with ordnance payloads. Again, weapon batteries have a decent range. Again, it's just that at longer ranges they lose a lot of dice, which is why I consider anything that focuses mostly on weapon batteries more close range armies. And all in all, they're probably the best in terms of boarding actions. Like, this is the army you want to play if you want to be, launching hit and run attacks, raids, boarding actions, and such, and just want to be in your face, and you want really good close combat capability. This is the army. The Tyranids are probably the best at it, because a lot of their close combat weapons either ignore shields or are used in the movement phase, allowing them to continue doing more attacks in the shooting phase. So if you have a vessel with bioplasma, lance shots, and massive claws, you have them grab, hope that they hook onto them, and then just launch your lance shots, which ignore shields, and roll wound on 4+, which is awesome. So they can just really do a lot of damage once they get into close quarters combat. Like I said, their weakest link is the long range. If, vessels get at decent range where their weapon batteries are fairly more effective than the Tyranid stuff, then the army can hold its own. Or if they're armed with a lot of lance shots or something, then the Tyranids are basically screwed over at that point. So that's my final thoughts. Again, the hive ships are great. The capital ships are really awesome, and there's not a really bad escort, because all the escorts are designed for you to build one and then have the other escort complement the other escorts very well. Big thing is, I would suggest at least 2 to 3 Vanguard drone ships. Those are key in your army, because that gets rid of that nasty cannot fire at ordnance and can only fire at the nearest target, and allows them to fire at a further target without rolling a leadership check, which is really awesome. And the fact that they also do have their special order rule system is neat, where, I pass the check, okay, they're under my control, I can give them any special order, is really awesome. And all in all, really great army. It's personally, I would love to take it if I played Tyranids, and I think it allows for the most creativity, because you can custom build your ships, because that's all what Tyranids are about, is customization and such. And so if you want an army that's really good in close quarters combat and allows you for your imagination to soar in terms of model building and building your army to fit your needs, then definitely the Tyranids are the army for you. And that is it for this week. Tune in next week when we'll conclude with the final army in the Forces of Battlefleet Gothic. And until then, this is Helios Raven, signing off.